What happens when you take one adventurous granny and mix her with two nerds with microphones? Well, you get a whole episode of awesome. You're listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by PACTV. I'm Tiff Phillips. Let's get started. Hi there. Hope all is well and wonderful. We have a great episode for you today. Let me tell you about this next interview. She joined PACTV as a community producer in 2016, and since then, she's journeyed through the states experiencing all the fun this country has to offer, with her fellow granny and camera in tow. Here's my interview with the famous granny herself, Beth Sobiloff. Have a listen. Hi, Beth. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being on Open Here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
So we're going to get to the crux of it. I really want to know what your background is. What's your story? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
I was the fifth of six children, and my mother was a homemaker. She used to do sewing, bring in sewing for extra income, and my father was what do they call it? He was a blue-collar worker, and tool and die maker. And so I grew up in a very, kind of middle-class, small town outside of Toledo.
Wow. When did you get to Massachusetts?
Well, I had an older sister who was convinced that I needed to go to a Ivy League school. And so she and her husband, we're pretty spread out, the siblings. Some of us are 5 or 6 years apart. And so she was working in New York City, and she and her husband brought me out to Smith, Mount Holyoke, Wellesley, all these schools. And then my mother said, well, you can only apply to one because that's all we can afford for applications. And I said, wow, if I don't get in, I'm going to be really mad. But I did. I got into Smith College in Northampton. It's gorgeous out there. And so after Smith, I just decided to move to Boston. And I've been in the Boston area ever since then.
I love that area. I actually went to school out there, too. I went to Bay Path University in Longmeadow, which is next to Springfield. So I'm in Northampton all the time. It's a gorgeous area.
It is. It's changed a lot, but it is gorgeous out there.
Yeah. So I need to know, what brought you to Two Grannies? How did that concept come about?
Well, I had been in business for myself for about 8 years as a web designer. This is back in 2010. And I was actually kind of feeling sorry for myself that I had never gotten the opportunity to travel across the country in an RV with my kids. And yeah, I really wanted to travel. And then I just realized, hey, you have a job that you could do anywhere. So I started thinking about how I could think outside the box and combine work and play and travel. So travel, and work at the same time, because I didn't have the time or the resources to not work for 3 months while I traveled the country or anything like that. So I started thinking about that. And at the time I was single, and I was also an empty nester. So I was on my own. And then I thought, well, I wouldn't want to do a trip like that on my own. That wouldn't be any fun. And then I thought of my friend who was a graphic designer. And she's a grandmother, and I said, she's adventurous. We'd have a lot of fun doing this. And then the name just came to me, Two Grannies on the Road. And we started scheming and thinking about how we could do this trip and, do seminars across the country, combining businesses, marketing to grow their businesses. And we just were having fun with it, and we were looking for sponsors to fund a trip like that. And we did some applications, but it never came about. And so over time, we just decided, well, let's do what we can do and travel locally. And for a while, actually, what we did was, I thought about doing a TV show because I knew with community television, you could do shows basically for free. And we had seen a lot of ageism happening
right.
in the workplace. And, we had friends who were laid off of their corporate jobs after 40 years and replaced by millennials, and they weren't ready to retire. They didn't want to. They couldn't afford to. But then there were others who were retiring and said, okay, now I want to live my dream. Well, maybe I always wanted to have a restaurant, but how do I do that? So we decided to interview baby boomers who had reinvented themselves and tell their stories to inspire other baby boomers and even anybody to live their dreams.
That's amazing. Have you always had an adventurous spirit? Is that something that you just it has been in your blood?
I think so. And maybe it was from growing up in a small town when we went some places, but not very far. But we used to go camping and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess I have.
And there's something to be said about like this generation of seniors. We were at the COA yesterday and we met a lot of people who are basically just living their best lives right now. Can you say anything about that? Like, what do you think has changed? Because I think seniors, 20 years ago are completely different than the seniors that exist right now.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with more awareness of health and staying healthy. Maybe getting away from the standard American diet and exercising more. And there obviously is a much longer lifespan now than there was many years ago. It's actually declined in the last few years, but it's still a long way from what it used to be. Mm-hmm. So if you retire at 65, you're looking at least 20 more years. What are you going to do?
Right.
And people just don't want to sit and watch television or just go fishing. They want to do other things. They still want to be productive and contribute to the world. And I think people live longer when they do have a purpose.
Right.
And I think people are realizing that. So I think a lot of things have changed.
Well, I'm so glad you found your purpose. That's amazing.
I'm having a blast.
So what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, a typical travel day.
Yeah.
What we do is we plan ahead of time. We decide where we're going to go. Sometimes it's because people have said, please come to Hubbardston, or they've suggested it, or we just think, hey, we want to see the South Coast towns. And so ahead of time, we will go on social media and we'll look for a forum for that town, they're all on Facebook. They all have forums, almost every town. And we go on the forum and we tell them we have a show and we're visiting every city and town in Massachusetts and we're coming to your town and we would really like help with what we should do. Where should we go? What should we see when we're there? What's the best place for breakfast, lunch, dinner? What are 3 things that we have to see? What is your town known for? And we get 100 responses. And when 8 people recommend one restaurant, we're like, okay, we have to go there. And so we schedule our day. We call the owners. We always make sure we talk to the town historian or someone from the Historical Society and get what the history of the town is. So we make the appointments so that we can interview people and not surprise them. And we schedule the whole day. So we'll try to get there at 8 or 8:30 in the morning, which is fun when the town is 2 hours away. And we'll, usually start with breakfast, and a lot of times we'll go from there to the Historical Society, and we'll just plan our day that way. We'll try to find some adventurous things to do. We'll try to find unusual businesses or businesses that have existed for, 50, 75, 100 years. And there's always a part of the day where we're just driving around looking at historic sites that maybe aren't open, or the landscape, or people say you have to go to Gooseberry Island, and that we'll do that as well. And then we end our day. Usually we don't stay for dinner because that's a really long day.
Right.
So we'll end 4 or 5 o'clock, come back home. And we've had a lot of fun. We've had great food. We've met really nice people. There's nothing like it.
Living your dream. Yeah. So what has the reception been of your show? Because you've had a lot of press and things like that. So what kind of platforms have promoted you?
Oh, gosh. We've been on Boston Channel 4 and Channel 7, Providence Channel 10, WBUR Radio, Boston Globe.
Wow.
Yeah, and also Worcester Telegram, a few other newspapers. The reception has been really great. People love what we're doing, and I think a lot of people want to travel. So they either live through us vicariously, or, I've been told people watch our show and they think it's fun and entertaining, inspirational, and they want to go to those places. So there's nothing better than that.
What are some of your favorite places that you've been to?
That's not a fair question.
How about like your top 3, maybe?
It is so hard. Usually the top 3 are the last 3 we visited. But, some stand out more than others. We haven't had a bad experience anywhere.
Right.
We've loved every town. They've all had these really interesting histories. But Hubbardston was fun because this little town where if you drove through, you'd think nothing was there. We found out there's a guy there who has the world's largest exhibit of Back to the Future memorabilia in the world. And it includes 3 DeLoreans.
What?
So, yeah. So that was actually a standout. I do have to say that. That was a standout. And by the way, they've invited us back because there's the church dedication. We interviewed the people in a church there that's being renovated. And when it opens on October 14th, they want us to premiere our Hubbardston show.
What?
At that opening, so we're going up there.
That's crazy, Beth. That's amazing.
I know, that's fun. That's a first. But, some of the early ones that I went to, I really loved Marion. They took us out on a sailboat. I think they call it the captain's boat or something for the races. And that was really fun. We've just met such fun people. We've been through, we've done cranberry bogs, we've done maple sugar farms, we've done cheese factories. Just that kind of stuff is fun. I love learning new things. And I feel like I'll always be learning my entire life. And that's part of the thing that really attracts me to this, is that I'm always learning something new.
How do you think you've evolved over time with the show?
I think, a lot of our skills have gotten a lot better. Editing skills, camera skills have gotten a lot better. We've learned over time that people really like travel. They love food. And so that's why we moved more toward that, the travel and the food, because that's what people like to see. So that's evolved as well as our skills.
So what advice do you have for grannies out there who are looking to kind of start their next step, what they're going to do in their next chapter?
Just think outside the box and go for it.
I love that. That's perfectly simple. That's all you need to do.
That's it.
And what do you think the future holds for Two Grannies on the Road?
I think it's going to take a long time to get through 351 towns and cities. We've only done 43.
Wow.
So that's something to look forward to, right? But I still would like to go across the country. The Grand Canyon, definitely on my bucket list. We thought about doing, the whole idea at the beginning was get out in New England in the winter. So we'd go south and then straight west across the country. But I'd also like to do a summer trip up through Canada into Alaska. So if we were able to, especially to get sponsorships, because it's nice to have, gas paid for.
Right.
Then I think we can do some of those longer trips. But we're happy right now traveling locally.
I need to model my life after yours. You are just living it up. And I respect that. You're an inspiration to not just people like baby boomers and seniors. You're an inspiration to all of us. And I really thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been fun.
All right. Take care. Well, what a wonderful human. We can all be inspired by that. All right. Now we're going to switch gears and bring you a little slice of entertainment. Melissa Matinzi and me chatting about the weird movie trivia facts that you probably didn't need to know. Guess who's back? Back again, Melissa!
It's me!
I'm so excited. So today we are going to talk about the movie trivia that you probably didn't need to know, but we're going to tell you anyway.
Well, in case you ever get onto Jeopardy, this is the stuff. This is the useless stuff in your head that you need to pull out in 10 seconds.
We're prepping you to be a multimillionaire.
Exactly. I mean, I could do it. No problem. I just don't like to test and be in front of people. So that's an issue.
I would always forget to form the answer in a form of a question.
I can do that. And then it's like I practice at home. We have a pen. I have a pen. I'll be like, click.
I love that you're getting your motor skills ready for Jeopardy.
What is?
You're my favorite.
Who is Leonardo DiCaprio? What is Plymouth Rock?
All right, so let's get this party started. What do you got for a trivia fact?
Okay, we're going to start off. We're going back. We're going back to Superman.
Oh, Superman. Like the original, the OG Superman, correct?
Christopher Reeve. I mean, you have the TV version from, the 50s, 60s.
Right.
And then, the 70s came and
yeah.
And then Christopher Reeve came on scene.
The Christopher Reeve Superman, man, that was classic.
I mean, and the story was so good.
Yeah.
And it was such, and you cry at the end.
Right.
And, the drama. Oh, no. Will they live? I don't know.
Right.
But leading up to that, because, technology being what it is and what it wasn't back then, that whole flying Superman thing, which is like so important, right?
Yeah,
Because Superman-
you'd think that flying would be important.
Yeah, so they had to figure that out with a human. So yeah, so we had options. So they started off with, we're catapulting a dummy. We're just gonna.
But I mean, at the time, though, it must have looked like realistic to people because they didn't have like the CGI, the stuff that they have now.
Right, but you're catapulting a dummy. Are you going to do that with a person? I mean, how do you? Because you have to edit,
Right.
And knowing how, what we have now for editing, what it was like back then,
Right.
that must have been a joy. So then they were going to use a remote control model airplane that's dressed up like Superman because that would look authentic.
Yeah.
Don't know how, but okay.
Sure, we'll go with it.
And so then they were just going to animate it. I'm like, okay.
Oh gosh. Is that 70s or 80s?
I think it was early
80s. So it might as well be the 70s.
Yeah. I can't remember, but I know because there were how many of them? Like three?
Three, right? Yeah.
Because then the bad guys came back. See, this is how well I am up on the DC universe. Not that well. Dave would chastise me, and Dave would be able to whip the answers out. But yeah, there were three because then the bad guys they put into the prison,
Right.
came out and
Prison.
Came back, and then I can't remember what the third movie was, but Gene Hackman was in the first one.
I love Gene Hackman.
He was so good.
So you want to hear mine? You want to hear mine? Okay.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, fine. The most profitable film of all time. Just the profits. Like, this is just very scientific, very economic.
Numbers-driven analytics. Thank you.
Exactly. We're not talking about quality. We're talking about Paranormal Activity. So get this. The return investment was 19,758% more than what they made. So they spent $15,000. They made $193 million. Have you seen Paranormal Activity?
No, that's not on my list.
For the folks listening at home, Paranormal Activity it comes from a period of film that's called found footage. So basically, they look at videos, and it's all hand recorded. It's like your Blair Witch Project, your what was the other
The stage not staged.
Exactly. It's basically like fake reality movie.
Yeah. No. There's a ghost. What are we going to do?
So it's basically like two guys. It's a couple that live in this condo. It's basically a townhouse, and this woman is slowly becoming possessed by evil spirits. Okay. So that is the premise of the movie. But the fact that they made so much money, Blair Witch 2, I actually don't even know how much they made. I haven't looked up those numbers, but they were like the first found footage to actually make a ton of money.
Well, that made a big splash because it was unexpected.
It was. It came out of nowhere.
And my daughter Abby was we were talking about this because we were talking on the couch or something. She's like, I've actually watched Blair Witch. I'm like, okay, that doesn't surprise me. I'm like, you're keeping it a secret. I'm like, I don't want to know when you watched it now. And she was just telling me how the script wasn't shared between the three actors. They left them alone in the woods.
Yep.
And then they would just pull them out randomly, like they would tell the guy in the tent.
And you're dead.
Well, not even that. He's like, get up and walk away and don't wake the others. And we'll be at these coordinates because they had crappy GPS.
Right.
Just walk this way and we'll grab you. And so they woke up and they're like, what is going on?
The 90s. What a time to be alive, man.
Oh, my gosh. And they're just like, yeah, this is what we're going to do, but we're not talking to you guys. We're just leaving you little notes at the next thing. Go to these coordinates. I'm like, that's like a scavenger hunt.
And I got to say, their marketing campaign was pretty amazing. They were doing like missing signs with these three folks on them. I mean, I don't think any of those actors did anything else after that, but I have to say, to even be part of that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, it's something new. It opened up a new genre for people to kind of go into. And like, what do they have to do after that, really? I mean,
exactly. I'm curious what you have next for me.
Okay.
For us, all of us.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. One of those movies that if it's on the TV, you're going to stop and you're going to watch it with the Windex, because the Windex takes care of everything with the dad, right?
You got to give people the plot for if they don't know, if they've been living under a...
How can you not know?
Big fat rock.
A big fat Greek wedding. I have a big fat Greek family. Tradition. You're going to marry a Greek guy. You're going to have the kids. You're going to stay home. You're going to have the family. You're going to do that. And you fall in love with an outsider. Oh, no. What shall we ever do? Love ensues. And everyone clashes and everyone comes together. Oh, you're not honoring the family legacy. You're not honoring our traditions. And guess what? You create new traditions. And luckily, the husband was open enough to be part of that. Because in real life, this is based on Vardalos' real life. She actually married Ian Gomez, who I'm going to assume Hispanic. So I'm like, Hispanic Greek. Interesting. Whenever you bring like two cultures together that you wouldn't normally think of meshing.
But beautiful. Beautiful mesh of just beautiful culture.
And the humor. If you go into it with the humor aspect of it, because you're going to laugh. Because, we all have, who doesn't have a crazy family? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Right.
So she started this off as a play out in L.A. and the little theaters and everything. And Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife, went and saw it and dragged Tom along, and they loved it. So a production team was like, let's make a movie of it. But we loved it. You're great, Nia. We're going to take your script, but we're going to change it because we're going to change it. We're going to make a Hispanic family. And we're going to have Marissa Tomei.
Is Marissa Tomei even Hispanic? Isn't she Italian? Oh, okay, so we're talking about like the 90s, early 2000s.
We're talking about the 90s where you weren't aware that she could look Hispanic.
But
you're not going to. But so that's all. Discussions that we have today were not being had in the 90s.
True,
we need to remember where we are in our time. We can't always apply what we know now to 20 years, 30 years ago.
I'm just saying, I mean, I just think of my cousin Vinny and does not compute, but hey, whatever.
But whatever. Well, and then Spider-Man, umpteenth revision.
Oh, boy.
But that's the whole thing. So anyway, so she was like, yeah, no, I'm out. And she was just like, doing her own thing. And then Tom Hanks is like, hey, I have a production company. I'll do your movie, and we'll do your script, and we'll make it all happy.
Ooh, he hanked it up.
And it's like, okay, and who can say no to Tom Hanks? Because he's just like America's everyman. Right? He's nice, he's friendly,
he's Hanks.
He's Tom Hanks. And so they started doing it, and they moved up to pre-production to Toronto. And so they were sitting in the bar, and they heard John Corbett, the actor, who happened to be at the bar as well.
Who was also in like Sex and the City, right?
Sex and the City, and then he was in a TV show before that.
Yeah, I just remember him from being aided.
And he was he was doing stuff before that too. But he's like one of those other every actors.
Right.
You know who he is. A side note, married to Bo Derek.
What?
Yes. Okay, that's a whole other. We'll come back to that in a second.
Yes.
So he was in town shooting in Toronto as well, at the bar, saying, oh, I got the script for my big fat Greek wedding. I loved it. I want to be in it, but I can't hit the audition. Okay, so they're sitting there like, that's our movie. So they go up and they're like, you want to be in our movie? And he's like, yeah, but I can't make it. Okay, you're in.
That's amazing.
And it's like, okay, so it's all whom you know. But yeah, he's been married. He and Bo Derek got married a couple of years ago, but they've been together for like ever.
That's quite the age difference, but I respect that. Love is love is love is love.
I don't think it's that different.
It really?
Okay, so I don't know. I went on Wikipedia because I was like, okay, she has to be what?
70? In her 70s?
Wikipedia said 65.
Okay.
I need to fact check.
I thought she was a little older than that.
He's 61.
That's not a huge age gap at all.
It's not.
She looks fantastic, but he does not look like he's in his 60s. Maybe
No.
40s?
Well, it depends. Yeah. I've seen him in different stages of life, and sometimes he looks really great. Sometimes. Yeah.
But, I mean, we all.
But, it could be a movie role, right?
Yeah.
Sure. We could say that. I say that every day. I'm in a movie.
But that's great. I mean, that's a cool story.
But it's great. And it was, it's an independent movie.
Right.
It wasn't expected to make money.
And it did.
And it did. And it just blew everything out of the water.
I think everybody can kind of relate to my big crazy family, that kind of situation.
Oh, the stupid stuff everyone does.
Yeah, the silly
living up to
traditions.
expectations of the family and wanting to do things for yourself.
Precisely.
Wanting to leave and travel and being,
Right.
tethered to what was. Yeah, we have no experience with that.
All right, so let's talk about The Wizard of Oz.
Let's not.
I know. Okay, so side note,
Next.
Melissa is not a huge Wizard of Oz fan. What about Wizard of Oz do you not like?
So first of all, I first saw it, God, we had moved here, so probably early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Flying monkeys, not my thing. And because I didn't know the story, they scared the living bejesus out of me. And so it was just like, yeah, I'm done for that. But there's nothing about the story that I'm attracted to.
Okay, that's fair.
Because the story, I'm like, okay, so you live in Kansas. I'm like, Dorothy, get over yourself,
I know.
first of all. And then it doesn't work for me. Man, the Green Curtain, Glinda the Good Witch. Now, Wicked, I would pay to see on Broadway. Not Wizard of Oz.
No, it's completely different because it's the prequel.
Right, exactly. It's told differently and everything. Now, have I read the book? No. Would I enjoy the book? Maybe, because books give you a different reality.
That's
you create your own version of it. Yeah, but no.
But you've seen it. That's the key.
I've experienced it.
But it's got like that typical epic arc of good versus evil and the journey with the client. I mean, it's kind of like
what it was and what it accomplished.
Yeah.
I will give it
it's textbook plot though when you really think about it.
It is.
But so there is some craziness. I'm doing a 2-part trivia. So do you know Toto, the dog?
The dog.
Actually made more money than the Munchkins.
And yet I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I'm also appalled at the same time that these poor little people who are working really long hours, like they did a documentary a couple years ago about the working conditions of these poor folks that were working.
Yep.
So Toto was making $125 a week. I mean, back at that time, that's
When was it? The 50s?
pretty good. Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
And then the Munchkins made $50 a week.
Okay. But again, not to say that's correct, but that's what the time it's wrong on any level, but that's, yes, it was exploitation. Yes, it was wrong, but that's how it was back then.
But such a kick in the teeth to those folks. Okay, and then do you remember the Poppy scene? Poppy, where all the characters are in that poppy field, and the Wicked Witch releases like this kind of like poppy snow that they trip off of. I mean, because it's the 50s, and that's what you do. Apparently, you do psychedelics in a fantasy land.
Hey, we're not.
Hey, that sounds like a party. But what was snowing down on them, because obviously they didn't have like CGI or effects that they could put after, was asbestos.
And are we surprised?
I'm not surprised, but also again appalled that you would subject these people to asbestos. But we have to understand that those were the times. There was no OSHA back then.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah. So,
but
whatever.
still, I'm like, but that also goes to the treatment of people. I mean, you could make other things, snow, because probably just the way that it was that in the colored scene. It must have been in the colored.
Yes.
So they needed the contrast. Otherwise, they could have gone with something like potato flakes.
Did they have potato flakes back then?
Yeah, instant potato. They must have had instant potatoes.
Don't know the story. I'll have to look up.
Dear Siri, find no, instant potatoes must have been like a 40s thing, 50s thing.
All right, last one. What you got?
Okay, so Mark Hamill. Guess who his roommate was? You'll never guess. Never, ever get.
I'm thinking. Okay, I give up.
Robert Englund.
Freddy Krueger?
Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
Because Robert auditioned for the role of Luke Skywalker. Okay, so right there's a visual for you, right?
I just picture Luke Skywalker with scissor hands.
Right, which could have come in handy with Vader.
Dagger paws.
Just saying.
Yeah.
But he said no. He turned it down and recommended, but hey, my roommate Mark would be great for
Do you
this
think
role.
that he's like kicking himself still? I mean, he still made it as Freddy.
How many Freddy movies were there?
But still.
1925?
Yeah, that's true. I guess it'd be one thing or the other because, like, Mark Hamill's going to be forever Luke Skywalker, and
But I
that
think
won't ever.
that whole group kind of just like, of actors from that time in LA, they kind of just like helped. They just hung out and helped each other.
Yeah.
And they knew they were all going up for the same
Nice.
roles. So why? And who knew Star Wars was going to be Star Wars
Right.
universe?
Right.
And so, and then originally, so this goes on, George Lucas was thinking about changing Luke Skywalker to
I
a
like
woman.
Skywoman.
Skywoman.
I like Skywoman better.
Skywoman. Which, okay, and then not have Leia at all. So now you're combining the two characters. Bad
Can you
idea.
picture a life without Princess Leia? I don't. It's a
Can
world
you
I
picture
don't.
a female Luke Skywalker?
Yes. Now a romance story between. Oh no, because they would be siblings.
Yeah.
They would be siblings, so that wouldn't work.
So
out
it still
well.
wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You have to change.
All right.
You have to change the whole dynamic. And then, okay, you're gonna love this. Speaking of Wizard of Oz, think of the principal characters as dwarves.
I'm thinking, and I'm thinking I don't like it. It's weird. I mean, is that where the Ewoks came from, I
I
wonder?
don't know, but can you imagine? I don't know what was going through their minds. That you would. Why? Why?
I mean, it was the late 70s, early 80s, so I'm sure other things were going on in their brains besides, sobriety.
If you could see our faces now. But then another thing that Mark Hamill was said that they were talking about changing it because they didn't like Star Wars because wars. They didn't think that would appeal to the female population.
Oh, gosh, because they know so much about female
fair
populations.
women wouldn't understand, and they thought that so they put in front of a focus group of who know what. And who heard the title, and a percentage of them, less than half, thought that the movie was a behind-the-scenes look at Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton's marriage.
Oh, God,
Which I get because back then they were huge,
Right.
Back and forth, on and off. I mean, there's a classic love story.
Yeah.
I hate you, I love you, I love you.
I think, Elizabeth Taylor was, the equivalent to, Kim Kardashian at the time because, her life was just so, out of control.
It was so big. I mean, she
22
started when she was
marriages
how old? 10? National
she?
Velvet,
Oh, yes.
and Richard Burton being Richard Burton.
Yeah.
So that was my little Star Wars.
I enjoyed that because StarArs. All right, we're going to leave on American Psycho because
Because that explains so much about what's happening
it's a really good place to
elsewhere,
leave
right
off.
in our.
So a little
lives.
backstory about American Psycho. American Psycho was based on a book about this incredibly sociopathic man who goes on a killing spree. He lives his life in decadence. It's supposed to be symbolic of American capitalism. So it was made into a movie with Christian Bale. Guess who he based that character on?
There's so many to choose from.
I know. There's a lot of crazies out there.
Okay, so
I know.
I'm not going to say only because my guesses. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say
Okay.
because that might say a lot about me. No, I'm not going
The
to say.
couch jumping person himself, Tom Cruise. It was based actually on Tom. He based his character. This wasn't what the book was based on, but this is what Christian Bale based his character on. Was Tom Cruise in an interview he did with Letterman?
Really?
Yeah.
How bad was the interview?
I mean, it wasn't like Oprah or
Over the top.
or that Good Morning America interview that he did that was really terrible.
Yeah.
It was borderline. So he kind of based it off of his kind of energy because Tom Cruise has got some very strange energy.
And it depends on who he's with.
Yeah, exactly.
Who he's interviewing with and what the reason is.
Exactly. I mean, if they're talking anything to do with Scientology, which I'm not going to get into because I'm not going to attack people's religion, but he's very territorial of Scientology.
Right. Well, and he's protective of his beliefs.
Yes, exactly.
We'll say
exactly. But that was interesting. And I'm sorry, but Christian Bale could probably base that character on himself as well. Because Christian Bale isn't exactly the most sane gentleman that has ever walked the earth.
In comparison to, there are some out there right now.
I'm just saying
I'm talking actors, not.
On the crazy spectrum, I wouldn't say he's like.
I'd say he's mid.
Maybe a little more than mid.
Not.
Nah, he's orange. Orange, yellow.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in the
on the crazy rainbow.
We're not in the red zone. I think we're in the warning zone. I think it also depends on
Will
the
Robinson
movie too.
Right.
And because how many actors get into their
Right.
character for that
Exactly.
and live their life like that. I mean,
And we're just going to keep living our lives like this. Like this. Where are
this
we
is
on
easy.
what are we on the crazy spectrum? I would say I'm straight up. I would say I'm a straight up purple sometimes. I'm going to go with purple.
purple.
Yeah.
Really?
Indigo. Sorry. Indigo. How dare I?
I don't think I'm crazy. I mean,
Where are you on the Roy G. Biv?
Roy G. Biv.
Roy J. Biv. I just renamed the
I'm
color.
having flashbacks to the science competition with kindergartners. Let's not go there. No, it's the orange comes before the yellow. No, it's the yellow because it's the different shades. What about the skin tones? It depends on if I get riled up on something.
That's fair.
Because I can go.
You can go, but you always are very evidence based. So I respect that about you.
There are times.
Everyone's got a little bit of irrational in them.
If you ask my kids, they'll be like,
And on that note, we're gonna Roy G. Biv out of here. That didn't make any Exactly. Melissa, always such a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure, Tiff. Anytime. You know we love this.
Okay, let's go back to our offices now and yell at each other again.
Yes, we'll just knock on walls.
Ooh, Morse code.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta fly. We gotta go back to work.
Work on Morse. I have to go look up Morse code and come up with some words.
All right, we're gonna go back to work. All right. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Melissa, and I guess myself. Gosh darn it, we are hilarious. I also want to thank the one and only Beth Sobiloff for being our guest today, and I want to thank you for giving us a listen. You've been listening to Open Here, a podcast produced by Plymouth Area Community Television. PACTV is the community media provider for the Massachusetts towns of Plymouth, Pembroke, Kingston, and Duxbury. To see more of our content, visit pactv.org/thelocalscene. I'm Tiff Phillips. Thanks for tuning in. Let's hang out again soon. Hi friends, if you like this video by The Local Scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe.